Hey guys and gals, welcome back to another episode of Haunted Gaming. Today we're looking at another Mario Creepypasta titled Super Mario Galaxy DS Prototype. Recently a friend of mine suggested this forum for me to browse. It's not too bad all things considered, but geez, it's slow. Getting at most a post a day. The active threads plastered on the front page consist of primarily mindless yet charming drivel. The few noteworthy discussions, months if not years old, only achieving responses longer than a single word due to the topic's images being pornography of one of the game's characters. Getting to the third quarter of topics the site considers still living, and every post is now not only years old, but the discussions still continue to rot my brain. Except for one. Nintendo GigaLeak, Mario Galaxy DS. Posted in the middle of 2020, the description states the following.
While everybody else is trying to suck the dicks of those Discord fags hoarding all the leaks, I got a little present for you guys. Enjoy.
Attached to the post is a download for Galaxy DS Prototype.nds. Of the three replies, the first states the superiority of Sunshine, the second one replying to the first with fuck off QB, while the third one calls the second an underage. Seeing as I can't fall back on the comments for confirmation on the veracity of the leak, I download the file myself, running it on an emulator. The game black screens. The undying human spirit inside me to see what I expect to be at most a benign edit of an existing DS game, changing only the cover and game title, is not quenched by the setback. I load it onto my 3DS and boot up a flash cart instead. My expectations are initially confirmed when I enter the home menu and see Mario's face as the game icon with the following text above. Super Mario Galaxy DS. Nintendo. Seeing that made me chuckle. I load up the game and see the Nintendo logo and... holy shit, it's real. It's fucking real. It's real. I don't believe it. It's real. It's actually real. Almost a decade and a half ago I thought it was real. But fucking hell, the goddamn thing is working. I try to take native screenshots, but it doesn't work. Who fucking cares? It's real! It's actually real! It's real! It's actually real! Still on the title screen for the past couple of minutes, my enormous grin hasn't faded yet. Even as I press A to start and pick single player, I still can't believe this is happening. Especially after that fake trailer got revealed to be a ruse so many years ago. Picking a Mario icon for my profile, I quickly name it after myself, Gaylord, before diving into the game. Waking up on a patch of flowers, I lift myself from the ground and notice my lush surroundings. The star creature typically guiding me through the game's introduction, nowhere to be found. Roaming the lifeless area, I stumble upon a castle structure, a launch star atop, tempting me to travel into the abyss that lies ahead. Sent flying into the game's other tutorial planets, I make my way through the common pests of Goomba hordes that invade the area. The theme of interactable characters not being present remaining a constant, even as I plunge myself into the final introductory planet's innards. A grand star lying in the middle of a menial contraception designed to store it. I disable the machinery and head towards the grandiose light. Grabbing onto it, I propel into the Comet Observatory. At its entrance, I watch it illuminate the entire hub area rather than the expected sector leading to the first dome, the terrace, on the left side. Though both surprised and pleasantly delighted at this opportunity to explore all the game's offerings from the get-go, I choose to start off at the game's first dome, the terrace, making note of the different features and changes that pervade this prototype. Now on a handheld, the game's interface has been modified to suit the console. The top screen is used for displaying the character's health bar, number of lives, current objective, and other minor pieces of information. The bottom screen is where most of the action happens, showing your character traversing through the game's various galaxies, having to dodge enemies, collect items, jump from one platform to the next, the gameplay itself, etc. Critiques can be made regarding the interface's rough presentation, particularly how squished everything looks being pushed to the side by the health bar, though it's serviceable. The amount of health now going up to 8 rather than 3 being the main change one would immediately notice. Likewise, for how the game plays in its various galaxies, other distinctions can be made between the DS and Wii version. Surprisingly predicted by the fake trailer from a decade and a half ago, obviously there's no Nintendo on Galaxy. Also a couple of years too late to take advantage of that Wii points per star promotion, but the video was right in the game utilizing the DS's controls. Tapping on star bits, or star shards as the Galaxy's sign informed me, collects them. First person mode is now also a thing, pressing L plus R to activate it. Overall, these changes are fine. Is there obviously some motion control-esque gimmicky garbage? Of course. This made it the prime of Nintendo's obsession with gimmicks after all. I'd be surprised if there wasn't any touchscreen mechanics in this. Still, they're fine because they're executed in an alright manner, given their expected addition, and not because they're actually amazing. It's occasionally uncomfortable flicking the screen to spin. I would prefer having an option to press jump again instead to do that. And yeah, more health is given to compensate for some of the oddities now present for playing on DS, but it feels very much like a band-aid fix for issues that admittedly can't be properly solved, like making the game on a console that only has the D-pad for movement, and is expected on some level to have the touchscreen be part of the game's experience. At the end of the day though, I still consider this to be a monumental feat considering it was made in 2006 and works on the DS. These are merely my observations as a man nostalgic of a bygone era, acutely aware of every minuscule flaw within, yet still yearning to return in whatever capacity a prototype lost to time can provide. There's some other odd changes that I don't know whether to categorize as purposeful game design, or just an aspect of this being a prototype. Pausing doesn't actually pause the game, only bringing up the menu, and the menu doesn't let you return to the Comet Observatory, only existing to show you what galaxy and mission you're in and how many power stars you've collected there. It's probably just an aspect of this build being unfinished, but then again, if someone told you with the Wii version your lives always reset every time you boot up the game, they'd probably think that was a broken mechanic, so who am I to decide? A lot of the game's galaxies are taken straight from the series' first game. I guess it would be the other way around, seeing as this was supposed to release beforehand, but there are a couple changes as to what objectives there are. The way the areas are structured as well as the inclusion of new galaxies. Home Galaxy, an area non-existent in the Wii version, is a grassy area littered with various large eggs to the sides of the walls and flower patches scattered around. The objective, collect 100 star shards, though easy, is a fitting addition seeing as the planet is found in the terrace. Collecting the power star there and exiting back to the dome, I'm ready to collect the other two there when an alarm goes off, and the following notification appears on both my screens. The first half of the text itself is garbled with the notification flashing until I'm directed to an unnamed galaxy. With a few decaying trees spread about the galaxy is a colossal boulder, ash heaps and microscopically tiny grass patches littering its surface. I give the poor presentation some slack due to the game being unfinished. Taking the situation in stride, an opportunity to pave the way in the mesmerizing field of never before seen content in Bing Bing Wahoo games, and see what this prototype's prankster comets are. I make it on the planet, unexpectedly facing off Cosmic Luigi instead of the cosmic version of myself typical within these races. Looking around, taking in the dying atmosphere and its eerily quiet nature as the race's countdown begins. Any hope of me winning the race is quickly dashed as the two successive jumps from my opponent to an unknown shortcut puts me leagues behind. I barely managed to have him in my purview the entire time, dividing my attention between him and making sure I don't fall into the void as I jump one ledge to the next. Rounding the corner to the straight path, I catch my opponent on the other side. Dead in his tracks, he stands next to a copy of me, compelling me to move forward and see what's happening. Getting closer, I notice some of the finer details of this lookalike. His faded overalls having inverted colors, with his cap hiding his eyes. As I finally get up close to the two of them, nothing changes. I jump for a bit, run circles around the two, even backwards jump past them. It's only when I decide to jump at my impersonator that things change. Knocked back a couple of steps, his body begins transforming, mutating into an incomprehensible mess. His limbs augmenting in unseemly shapes as his body rapidly fluctuates in size. I recognize my cue to leave and start running back to the beginning when halfway through I feel a force pulling me back, hampering my movement and devouring the small bits of hope I had of escaping. As I slowly drudge my way to the beginning of the race, my lack of mobility starts to get me, barely making one of my jumps back and recognizing the seemingly guaranteed probability I fail. The next one I soon resort to searching for an alternative path, noticing one far below me. Leaping towards the void, the path catches me, its slim space doing little to ease the situation. As I continue running forward, debris begins falling from above, the downpour almost crushing me. Looking up amidst all the debris, I notice Cosmic Luigi staring me down, racing me to the beginning, now mere seconds from where I started, eagerly eyeing the launch star waiting for me. The clone's minions pounces on me, still being pulled back towards where I met my clone and now having to deal with Cosmic Luigi's various attacks. Still being pulled back towards where I met my clone, now having to deal with Cosmic Luigi's various attacks, I barely make it out with a single sliver of health left. Back to the Comet Observatory. All traces of that wilted, rocky galaxy have disappeared, my pulsating heart being the only piece of proof it ever existed. To answer the $1,000,000 question, do I still think this game was made by Nintendo? Maybe? I mean, look, yes, I do understand my latest experience had a couple of quirks, to put it lightly. However, look at the game. Even if my experience ends right here, the amount of work required to do all this, to program in, make art of everything, and then have it to work relatively well on a console as limiting as the DS, it inherently makes something as expansive as this impossible to have been done by anybody other than Nintendo. And sure, what of the fact I had to outrun some sort of incoherent blob that initially looked like Mario, an imposter, if you will, and his buddy Cosmic Luigi. It may have been a tense experience initially, but looking back, it was spectacular. That isn't some 5-second cakewalk in a game I love. It was more of a rush of adrenaline than anything. The feeling's still lasting even as I've left that place. Still, that doesn't entirely explain everything. Even as a dev joke like Kawasu's genitals is still too much effort, but then again, it's nigh impossible I stumbled upon this game before it became publicly known. I feel like a metronome, my mind constantly switching between the child whose playground rumors were all true, to the pessimistic adult whose quick hits of nostalgia are now wearing off. Doubts of the game's authenticity crawling into my mind. Nonetheless, the questionable authenticity and extraordinary background only pushed me to investigate further and figure out its origins. I wish to leave no stone of this enigma unturned, the loneliness of the observatory comforting me like a blanket. I traversed the hub in its entirety as I continued to catch my breath, and taking note of the various amenities and other changes such as brighter beams making up the light lost from the lumas having disappeared. The red star at the garage illuminates my eyes, a pensive look coming from the case power-up's eyes. I grab it and begin to fly. In spite of my previous complaints of motion control gimmicks, the integration of the touchscreen to guide your character's direction while it's flying fits like a glove in Mario's arsenal of movement options. Similar to the Wii game, I find it a shame that the red star is only reserved for the Comet Observatory and a single mission for its unlocking, teaching you how to use the power-up. Its smooth controls here signifying an even greater waste of potential. Even here, they have to do the greatest disservice to it, removing its second location above the bedroom. Nonetheless, I cherish the red star's moment here. Regaining my composure, the next place I check out is Buoy Base Galaxy. Flying into the level, I notice moss growing off the tower, a molding cake in the center of a cesspit of corroding steel. Its cannonball decals having been picked off, platforms are sprinkled around the center with bullies now living there. With all these changes, there's only one I care about though. The galaxy has no water! It's a buoyless base. It's Base Galaxy now. Besides, that's a nice cruise to the galaxy. I collect 100 star shards and grab the star, head out, and get smacked by another notification. In orbit. Coincidentally, it's for home galaxy in spite of me being in a separate dome. I appreciate the opportunity, but considering the notification is the exact same as before and some of the galaxies on the map have either been changed or are completely new, I opt to ignore the notification for the time being and instead fly over to Peanut Galaxy. There's no false advertising here. It's a planet-sized peanut. You go there, dodge a couple boulders, then follow a coin trail to a power star. It takes 20 seconds at most. Going back to the central map at the Comet Observatory, I check to see if home galaxy still has a notification, only to find it, in the galaxy, gone. Double checking at the terrace confirms what I saw and leaves me peeved that this has occurred twice now. I don't know what to do. Last time I got completely outclassed by Cosmic Luigi and that impasta. There's no way I'd be able to beat him in a race, even from the perspective of someone who wants to catalog all of this. It's the same notification as before. I doubt it'd be anything except for another cosmic race. My only concern so far is that none of these galaxies have come back, but I'm hoping that's merely the game's punishment for failing to complete the mission. A penalty similar to how the Wii version would only let you play the prankster comets of whatever galaxy it landed on. For now, I just had to hop around a couple more galaxies that I know will give me more to take note of. Beach Bowl, Space Junk, Rolling Green. 2-minute account, jotting down every little change I see in one. Beach Bowl is now in the middle of an aquatic racetrack. Sea Slide Galaxy no longer existing as its own separate entity. I find the concept initially sweet until realizing how bloated the galaxy becomes. Too much stuff condensed into one little area. Space Junk Galaxy is now Stardust Galaxy. Nothing else is different enough to particularly take note of, although I swear a block here and a ship there are colored differently. Rolling Green is exactly the same. Though that sounds boring, I find it fascinating that this galaxy in particular was one of the few to not have I find it fascinating that this galaxy in particular was one of the few to not have had a single change between the game's versions. Of course, this assumes that Mario Galaxy DS was developed by Nintendo. But even then, interesting, that whoever decided to make this kept the galaxy entirely intact. Through every batch of notes I take and group of power stars I collect, I get another notification pointing me towards a galaxy with the same prankster comet as before. I will eventually try to do another race, but for now I prefer exploring the other parts of the game, seeing what else it has in store. I'm starting to get concerned that none of these disappeared galaxies have reappeared again. But hey, couldn't it be said that the avoidance of these prankster comets is part of exploring other parts of this game? Seeing what happens when you continuously ignore them? One particular galaxy, Chomp Saucer, has an icon flashing between black and orange, enticing me to fly there. The objective is simple: defeat 5 chain chomps to get a power star. While jumping around their sporadic lunges at me and slamming down the wooden pegs that hold them, I notice a seemingly deserted asteroid close by. It looks unreachable, but once I don't have a chain chomp trying to tear me in half, I go to first person mode. The one time I get to use this useless feature to see what's there. Cosmic Luigi stands atop the asteroid. I lock eyes with him and notice him frantically turning tail and running to the other side of the asteroid. With only Cosmic Luigi spotted, I get back to taking down the chain chomps, a gate opening by the galaxy's edge once done so, revealing a power star. Walking over to the gate, ready to collect the power star, I feel uneasy as a warning of my impending doom flashes on the screen. In orbit. The floor beneath the gate gives way, then the star and structure holding it. Underneath it lies a black hole bright as the sun, the galaxy giving in to its pull. I turn around, noticing that the rest of the galaxy is breaking apart into pieces. The sheer abruptness of this hastily confirms my doubts about the authenticity of this game, yet the dichotomy I set myself quickly crumbles as more of the floor gives in, revealing the rest of the black hole. The ends of the black hole covered in sharp teeth. It becomes apparent that this all-consuming void is a monster hell-bent on satisfying its appetite, rather than a mindless placement from obtuse game design. Getting a glimpse at its red, pulsating flesh, it finally connects that this isn't some random monster. It's Impasta. The same notification as before, being pulled back just like last time. He's my confirmation that there's no way Nintendo made this, or that this is some fan's passion project. My only concern is getting out of here to continue my search for the truth about the game. Desperately looking around, I spot a sling star on the other side pointing at the asteroid. Jumping from piece to piece towards it, the lack of stable ground doesn't do me any favor. Right as I get used to it, I notice Cosmic Luigi running around towards me from the other side. I regret not realizing that the two come in pairs sooner. Cosmic Luigi gets close and dives towards me, attempting to knock me into his master's black hole as his afternoon snack. His acidity and entourage of attacks are nerve-wracking, the black hole's pull being a mere breeze of wind to him, but eventually I reach the sling star and travel to the asteroid. Looking back, I see Chomp Saucer be completely swallowed, Impasta's entire form taking its place. Seeing him quickly approach, I rush all over the asteroid for any kind of escape. Noticing a launch star at the bottom, by the skin of my teeth I rush into it and launch out of the galaxy before I can be swallowed whole. Back at the map screen, Chomp Saucer Galaxy remains nothing more than a memory in my head. My entire perception of this game's origins have been shattered, leaving me ever more engrossed in this game's riddles. I genuinely feel there's no possible explanation to this game that doesn't involve otherworldly events, leaving me feeling like a lunatic as I tied myself into knots over every little unexplainable quirk this game has. All that my brain has caught onto is that the game wants my main enemy to be Impasta, and to that, I'll happily oblige. Yet the issue remains, what options do I have to defeat him? Going against his servant is already a Herculean task, let alone fighting the both of them. I'll have to scour what galaxies remain to see if they have something I can use. Tracking down some tangible advantage I can use like a power-up or an optimal set of platforms leaves me panicking as I hop from one galaxy to another as quickly as possible. Every time I return back to the map, another notification shows up, reminding me of my time running out. One by one, every galaxy on the observatory's map begins to disappear. Even at the Comet Observatory, galaxies disappear right as I'm looking at them. The notification makes me aware of which areas I ought to avoid so that I don't encounter Impasta and Cosmic Luigi again. But either way, he continues to make his presence known as I continue to look for something to give me that advantage I need. Sure, I've passed by dozens of different sets of power-ups or coins that I could use fighting Impasta and Cosmic Luigi, but none of them are good enough. I don't know what I'll get if the Leviathan wins and I get consumed by him, so when I do encounter him again, I want to make sure I have the upper hand. Arriving at the engine room, it was apparent almost half of the galaxies have already disappeared. Traveling into Goldleaf Galaxy, the autumn forests now mixed in with various honey walls and hives, I noticed in the background another galaxy, Sand Spiral, slowly being swallowed by a black hole. Speeding through the various missions there, I noticed inch by inch the entire galaxy, a rotating barrel and spiral strapped together, disappearing from my purview, leaving in its wake a vast space of emptiness. By the time I get out, another galaxy from the dome, Bonefin, has disappeared. Having a handful of options left, I quickly check each one before noticing the mission's title that catches my eye. Megaleg, Below the Fortress. It's for Starman Fortress, a galaxy I'd initially dismissed due to my assumption that it was the only level where you can climb to the top. The knowledge of a boss there, however, convinces me that the galaxy might just be the advantage I need. A colossal castle whose architecture made everything else I had seen pale in comparison. A waterball from above leading down into a lake that surrounds half of the fort's edges adjacent to the mix of a spring and winter plains. Cranes, cannons, and other appendages so high they almost feel as a part of the sky itself. Seeing a white flag slowly drifting amongst the current at the tippy top of the fortress, I set out to see where it leads to. I make my first step conquering this behemoth by surfacing its pillars and diving myself across the waterfall. The yellow platform awaiting me not far ahead. As I step onto its metallic surface, it lifts me into the cloud, cannons firing down at me, some almost grazing my nose. The platform finishing its journey, I step onto a small patch of grass circling two buildings. The shorter one's roof waving that coveted white flag. Jumping on the roof, I grab the staff and ascend to the flag itself. Seeing a pipe protruding from the top of the second building, I jump off the flag and land on the pipe, and emerge on the other side at a mining operation. Floodlights being my only source of illumination in this zone. Megaleg is the boss of this district and my one hope of defeating Impasta and Cosmic Luigi. His appearance is different from what I expected from the Wii version, now sporting 4 instead of his typical 3 legs. His rounder, less polished design combined with a now flat head and compact shape makes him more of a lifeless machine than before. Attempting to stall time until the brute and his buddies show up, I run around like a headless chicken, desperately trying to dodge his erratic attack so he doesn't crush me before taking down Impasta. His random attack patterns and swift movement across the bottom of Starman Fortress almost results in my death many countless times, yet engaging in this goose chase, as the goose of course, eases my beliefs that I made the right choice putting my faith in this metallic menace. An alarm starts going off with popping up on screen. I know he's here. He arrives without Cosmic Luigi to support him, existing as neither the copy of me or the galaxy-eating Goliath from my previous encounters. He stands tall, his legs as wide as Colosseum pillars. His head melts into his body to reveal his true face on his chest. Large pupilless eyes on his torso. He and Megaleg being of equal stature. Immediately he attacks the mechanical construction, laying it into blow after blow with his fists as he uses his mouth to try and consume parts of its body. But the machine is quick to adapt, scurrying away to the edges of this zone. Now at a safe distance, Megaleg fires an entourage of bullet bills at Impasta, consuming almost all of them. A couple end up hitting parts of his body, barely slowing down his movements as his tree trunk-esque legs edge ever closer to Megaleg. Another swarm of bullets unleashes on Impasta. He again devours most of them, missing one aimed at his eye. As the bullet bill makes contact, he stumbles back, screaming out in anger before the rest of his body gives in and comes crashing down. Watching on the sidelines, I feel the need to intervene now that I know Impasta's weakness, to hop into the fight and help Megaleg secure the victory, even if he doesn't consider me an ally. I take one step towards the action and spot on the other side of its mining operation, now turned fight arena, Cosmic Luigi hurrying towards Megaleg, his attempts of getting up all stopped for Megaleg's kicks or bullet swarms. Getting quickly to work, Cosmic Luigi uses his nimbleness to mount Megaleg, effortlessly climbing on top of the machine. One by one, Cosmic Luigi begins to damage the machine's legs and cannons, long jumping off the machine once finished. Back on his feet, Impasta steadily moves over to the machine, vertical slits now showing on his once pupilless eyes with a tremendous grin. Opening his mouth wide open, he grabs a hold of the now teetering machine and chows down on Megaleg. beginning with his legs. Stunned in place, I watch from afar as my one hope for the end of this tireless titan is devoured before me. All of that work looking for a place where I could take him on, where I could have a fighting chance against him, evaporated in half a minute as soon as his buddy Cosmic Luigi arrived. Megaleg's existence now reduced to crumbs on the ground, and my hope lost. The game creates a power star in the middle for me to leave, a reward for completing the galaxy's mission. It's my one chance out of here, so I sprint headfirst towards it. No longer occupied with Megaleg, Impasta turns around to face me and Cosmic Luigi attempts to push me into his master's direction like last time. Considering how close I have to get to the two of them in order to escape, it's a miracle I'm able to grab the power star and get out with half of my health still remaining. Back at the Comet Observatory, I feel butterflies in my stomach as I walk towards the map to see what options I have left. I knew going into Starman Fortress that I only had a handful of options left, but there's gotta be some other place I could still use to fight those savages at. Looking at the map for what's left, there's nothing. I feel my heart pumping now as I use a small amount of faith left in me to double check all the dome. I rush to the terrace. Nothing. The fountain. None left. The kitchen. All gone. The bedroom. Not one remains. The garden, like the others. Going back down to the map, there truly is nothing left, with no galaxies remaining. I panic, thinking of where he could possibly be. Maybe he's drifting off in the void. Maybe he's content having consumed all the galaxies here. Maybe he's barely visible through the notification now plastered on both my screens. I see at the other side of the observatory, right by where the bedroom is, the two of them. Impasta looks exactly like he did during our last encounter, leaping up in the air away from the observatory, becoming a disfigured, mutated blob of red. I watch as this convulsing mass takes up more and more of the screen. Once Impasta's transformation ends, his mouth itself is larger than the observatory. His eyes now the size of the observatory's domes. I could see his eyes peering in my direction, staring in awe. I'm slowly pulled into his mouth's black hole as he eats his final meal, the Comet Observatory itself. I'm jittery watching Impasta take chunks of the observatory one bite at a time. What am I supposed to do? My one hope, Megaleg, is dead. There's no possibility of coins or an advantageous position to be in here. Not as though that would solve anything against this Goliath. All I have is the knowledge that Impasta is vulnerable in his eyes, that he and Cosmic Luigi are like bread and butter, and that there's nothing in the Comet Observatory that could possibly help me. Except, I look to the garage. The red star's still here! One step towards it and Cosmic Luigi comes long jumping towards me, swiftly moving from one chunk of the observatory to another. As I pass the front of the terrace, he's already reached the dome's back, and is 5 steps away from crushing my skull with a vigorous jump to the cranium. I barely shatter the red star's case in time, and grab it when Cosmic Luigi starts thrashing with a collection of kicks and spins. Cosmic Luigi kicks me back down to the ground. A couple of these attacks, though leaving me with 3 hit points, consider my head a platform to be used to jump on top of the terrace, lighting an idea in my head. With a few options left, I look towards the bedroom and fountain. Their area is now consisting of chunks of rock equivalent to food scraps, and run towards them. Moving straight towards Impasta, I see behind me Cosmic Luigi waiting atop the terrace. I take the moving platform in the middle of the observatory, towards the masses of scattered rock, and see Cosmic Luigi now jumping off the terrace, aiming his boots towards me. In a desperate plea to rid myself of this plagued symbiotic buddy, I jump off the moving platforms toward the scattered bits of what was once the fountain. Barely missing my jump, seeing the bait in my process, my maneuver pays off when Cosmic Luigi attempts to use my fall into the void as a way to boost himself towards his master, only to be met with me flying upwards and him falling into the cosmos, disappearing from my sight. I encountered him on. I hear an enraged cry emerge from Impasta, his hunger only worsening as a result. Now face to face with Impasta, no longer having to deal with one of the 2 tumors on my back. I fly right towards his left eye and pierce it head on, the force immediately pushing me back to the garage. The chaos stops briefly, Impasta roaring out in agony, the engine, garden, and kitchen now obliterated. I get back up and rise to the creature's eye level again, his black hole a constant disruption to my flight pattern. With a proper navigation, I get right up to him again and strike another one of his eyes with another headbutt. For a brief moment, the havoc stops again. I'm pushed back to the garage a second time. That wretched freak cries out once more in desperation. Now that the terrace and almost all of the garage are wiped out, I know this is my final chance to take him down. I lift myself up into the air one last time. I soar towards this abomination one last time. I launch my body, head first, into his eyeball one last time. Now forced away from him like the previous times, I get a front row seat to his demise. He had no ear-deafening scream or final attack as his death throw. Just a sudden change into a form I first encountered him as, falling down into the vastness of space. I initially am elevated, defeating this Leviathan, but as I look around, my emotions promptly dissipate. I finally conquered this brute, and yet he's already taken the Comet Observatory and everything else with him. I stand alone in this galaxy as I wait for the red star power-up to dissipate and see what my fate is. It eventually wears off. My character falls into the void. I'm shown my life bar going down by 1, and the game black screens. Restarting my system, I boot the game up, get back to the save select screen, pick my old save and see my 3DS crash again. Picking a new save leads to the same fate. Even when I re-download the game, I can't revisit the world. Though I can't go back, I still wonder about that galaxy's fate. Well, that certainly was something. Normally when I'm reading a Mario Creepypasta, they tend to be a mixed bag. Most of the time they tend to be pretty good, or sometimes just tend to be shit pasta tier without most people even knowing. But all that aside, I think utilizing the old rumor like Mario Galaxy DS from back in the day is really cool. Especially the way it's utilized, that it was going to be a prototype, playing into the hoax, and, also playing into the Giga Leak thing as well, which seems likely. I think there is a sense of realism added here as well with the way the player is and everything. They more so just try to find a way to defeat it, which I think is something that I don't really see often. Anyways, yeah, I just think the best part about it is just using the Mario Galaxy DS hoax made by Pablo Belmonte from back in the day, because that's something I haven't really thought of in years. Again, using beta elements as well with the Mega Leg thing, it's just really cool. Anyways, yeah, I don't really got much to add on for this, for like the critique parts of it, because I can tell that the person who wrote this finally tuned it to make sure there wasn't much of a problem story-wise. All in all, I asked, what would you rate this and what would you change to make it better? This has been another episode of Haunted Gaming, and you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. This has been me, Mario, and I am out.